In this, the fifth and final module of the section, we will be exploring the remaining topics discussed in the IFRS conceptual framework, namely the measurement rules applicable to the various elements of financial statements. As you may recall from the very end of the previous module, the common component present in the recognition criteria stated in respect of all financial statements elements is the need for reliable measurement. In fact, all economic events and transactions need to be measured before they can be recognized, and this is the aspect which we shall focus on right now. Measurement is the process by which monetary values of the various financial statements elements are determined. It is these monetary values at which the elements are recognized and carried in the statement of financial position and statement of comprehensive income. Some elements are relatively easy to measure. Take cash in hand at the company or the balance of its bank account. There really should be no doubt regarding their monetary value. At the other extreme, some elements may be very difficult to measure. Imagine an insurer who has sold 1,000 life insurance policies. Contracts have been signed with clients, creating a legal obligation which will result in the outflow of economic benefits from the company when clients pass away. This obviously leads to the recognition of a liability, but measuring it may prove to be quite a challenge. Some of those 1,000 clients will not die within the duration of the signed contract. Some will pass away sooner, whereas others later. All of these unknown or uncertain factors impact the overall value of the future cash outflow which the insurer is bound to suffer. The lack of certainty with regard to the size of the insurer's obligation does not rule out the possibility of measuring it reliably. It just requires highly specialized knowledge of concepts relating to mortality and longevity, which is a domain of the actuarial profession. In this module, we will discuss different approaches to the measurement of financial statements elements, as these concepts form the foundation of specific measurement rules covered in the remaining sections of the material. The framework identifies 4 measurement bases, which are used to a different degree and in varying combinations in financial statements. They are historical cost, where the basis for computing the carrying amount of an asset is the amount of cash paid to acquire it in the first place. Current cost, which corresponds to the amount of cash that would need to be paid to replace the item today. Realizable value, which is the amount of cash that could be obtained if the asset were sold today in an orderly, non-forced transaction. And finally, we have present value, which is equal to the discounted value of all future benefits that are expected to be generated by the asset in the normal course of business. We will now work through a comprehensive numerical example to see how the 4 measurement approaches may be applied in practice. Imagine that 2 years ago a company bought a brand new machine used in the production of engine components for which it paid €100,000. The overall expected useful life of the machine is 5 years, and the company uses the straight line method to provide depreciation on the asset with an assumed residual value of 0. The market for engine components is currently growing rapidly, and the machine could be sold to another producer for €80,000, but transport costs to be covered by the seller would amount to €6,000. In the next 3 years, the machine is expected to produce components worth €30,000 per year, with repair costs €1,000 per annum. The discount rate used by the company equals 10%. To measure the asset's carrying amount under the historic cost approach, we start with the fact that the company originally paid €100,000 for the machine. We are also told that its expected useful life is 5 years and that the company uses linear depreciation, which means that after 2 years, €40,000 should already have been deducted from the original cost, resulting in a carrying amount of €60,000 at the reporting date. The depreciation charge is naturally calculated by dividing the asset's original cost of €100,000 over 5 years to give 20,000 of annual depreciation. Since 2 years have already passed, accumulated depreciation on the asset totals €40,000. Let's now shift our attention to current cost, which is the cost at which a similar machine of a similar age and condition could be bought in the market, and we are told that this is €80,000. Alternatively, we could have been provided with the price of a new machine, which would obviously be more than 80,000, which we would then need to adjust by 2 years worth of depreciation, and that's because we are estimating the current cost of an asset which is already 2 years old. In order to measure the asset under the next basis, that's realizable value, we start again with the €80,000 which is offered for the machine, but this time reduce it by €6,000 on account of the costs that the company would have to incur in order to complete the disposal. This means that the machine's equals €74,000. Applying the last of the 4 measurement approaches, so computing the asset's present value, requires the use of a calculator. We are told that the machine is expected to generate €30,000 in revenues per year. At the same time, annual repair costs are estimated at €2,000, bringing the net benefits expected from the asset to €28,000 annually. If we make the simplifying assumption that all cash flows occur at the end of the relevant year, discounting the year 3 cash flow involves dividing €28,000 by 1.1, which gives €25,455. The net benefit from year 4 needs to be divided by a factor of 1.1 twice, or to the power of 2, which produces a result of €23,140. Performing an analogous calculation in respect of year 5 yields a present value of €21,037. The overall present value computed for the machine is therefore equal to the sum of the present values calculated in respect of the individual years, and amounts to €69,632. With the 4 measurement bases explained and illustrated, let's now attempt to identify their merits and drawbacks. Traditionally, historical cost has been the most common measurement approach applied in accounting. Its popularity comes from the fact that it has some very clear advantages over the other approaches. First of all, it is easy to calculate and comprehend. It is relatively objective and free from bias, especially if the historical cost at which an item was acquired is known. It facilitates easy forecasting of future carrying amounts, as the assumptions used in applying the historical cost approach are relatively insensitive to current market conditions. And finally, historical cost is easy to verify using transaction-related documents, such as invoices. The historical cost approach is, however, not free from drawbacks. Its primary disadvantage is that it does not reflect the current value of assets or liabilities, where such information would obviously be considered more useful by readers of financial statements, especially by investors assessing whether to invest in the business. As we saw in the example, in a booming market for engine components, the value of the machine was lowest under the historical cost approach and higher under all 3 remaining methods, which exhibit evident ties to current market conditions. The fact that in the case of historical cost accounting, the link to the market can at best be described as weak, makes the information provided to users of financial statements under this approach far from complete. To overcome the weaknesses of historical cost accounting, different approaches may also be explored, including current cost accounting, abbreviated to CCA, which also features in the IFRS conceptual framework. Current cost accounting does not constitute a single, well-defined system, but rather a variety of approaches, so in this brief overview we will focus only on the general traits of the CCA methodology. When exploring current cost accounting, we need to draw an important distinction between feature in the statement of financial position, and that's monetary and non-monetary items. Monetary items are those whose amounts are fixed by contract or otherwise in terms of numbers of units of currency, and include items such as cash, receivables, and payables. Irrespective of whether the economy is booming or not, whether inflation is picking up or slowing down, a receivable for €1,000 is worth the same 1,000, even if the value of that €1,000 in terms of its purchasing power changes over time. On the other hand, non-monetary items include non-current assets as well as inventory. The amounts at which they are presented are not fixed by any contract, but depend strongly on the specific measurement approach adopted, as we had an opportunity to witness in that machine example from a few minutes ago. The value of non-monetary items is therefore potentially sensitive to market conditions, including the demand and supply for those items as well as the rate of inflation. The idea behind current cost accounting is to restate financial statements in such a way that current economic conditions are taken into account, as opposed to just reflecting historical price tags from past transactions. Applying the CCA approach involves making the following adjustments. Inventory and non-current assets should be valued at current cost. In other words, at the amounts which would have to be paid to replace them. Any changes resulting from fluctuations in current cost should be reflected within income. On the other hand, monetary items should be carried at constant values. The CCA approach offers a significant advantage over historical cost accounting, as it provides users of financial statements with more relevant information which reflects the current state and performance of the company. However, it is not free from drawbacks, the most important of which are that current cost accounting is typically more subjective and less reliable than the historical cost approach. Applying it may prove a complex task, and it is definitely less familiar to users of financial information. Monetary items are still carried at their historical cost, which might not be relevant under current market conditions. And finally, from a practical point of view, it may sometimes be difficult to obtain appropriate current cost values for all non-current assets, especially if no market for such assets exists.